Return to your observation station, human. Commander Thrix hisses, his translucent appendages trembling with barely contained rage. You have violated 17 protocols. Maya Chen stands her ground on the smoldering bridge of the eternal vigilance. Emergency systems whine as damage control teams rush past. The maneuver she executed, a retrograde spin with simultaneous lateral thrust, had thrown half the crew against bulkheads, but it had also saved the ship from the Saurelian plasma torpedoes that would have vaporized their port section. With respect, Commander, Maya replies, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her system. Those torpedoes followed a predictable attack vector. Their targeting algorithms have recognizable patterns. Silence. Frix's voice modulator crackles with distortion. Your primitive species has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. The Confederation has fought the Saurelians for 1,000 years. The wounded Confederation captain, Admiral Zolix, raises a trembling limb from the medical stretcher. His gelatinous form pulses weakly as he addresses Thrix. The human saved us. Thrix's compound eyes flicker in the equivalent of a scowl. A fortunate coincidence. Maya accesses the tactical display without permission, another violation, and replays the attack sequence. Look here, she points to the energy signatures. The Saurelian ships maintain perfect formation even when it's tactically disadvantageous. They prioritize geometric precision over combat effectiveness. And here, she highlights a section of the shield analysis. Their shield modulation follows a mathematical sequence, complex but predictable. The bridge falls silent. Several alien officers exchange glances of what Maya recognizes as discomfort, though on some species it's hard to tell. Impossible, whispers a crystalline officer at the weapons station. Our analysts have studied Saurelian tactics for centuries. Maybe that's the problem, Maya says. You've been fighting them so long you can't see the forest for the trees. The idiom doesn't translate, causing confusion among the alien crew. Chief Science Officer Kilax, a being composed of interconnected luminescent nodes, drifts closer to the display. The human vessel that intercepted our approach to Earth. It performed maneuvers we classified as erratic and inefficient. Standard evasive patterns, Maya explains. Unpredictability is fundamental to human combat doctrine. Admiral Zolix gestures weakly from his stretcher. Bring the human to my quarters when I recover. Commander Thrix vibrates with disapproval, but nods stiffly. Return to your quarters, Captain Chen. You are confined there until further notice. Your actions will be reviewed by the Diplomatic Integration Committee. As Maya is escorted off the bridge by 2 security officers with exoskeletons that click with each step, she catches Kellex studying the tactical replay again. Head nodes pulsing in the pattern she's learned indicates deep thought. In her quarters, a space designed for beings larger than humans, with atmospheric controls perpetually set too cold and gravity slightly too heavy, Maya finds a message waiting on her rudimentary access terminal. The sender is anonymous, but the content makes her heart race. The Saurelians have never faced humans in combat. This may be more significant than the Confederation realizes. There are those who would hear more of your observations. Proceed with caution. You are watched. Maya stares at the message until it automatically deletes itself per Confederation security protocols. Outside her viewport, the vast blackness of space stretches endlessly. Somewhere out there, the Saurelian fleet continues its relentless advance, crushing Confederation worlds one by one using tactics unchanged for centuries. They weren't ready for what happened today. They weren't ready for a human response. And that, Maya realizes with growing certainty, might be the advantage humanity needs. Maya's garage laboratory was a monument to human ingenuity and desperation. Salvaged computer monitors lined the walls, jury-rigged to interface with the alien data drives. Extension cords snaked across the concrete floor, powering equipment never designed to work together. The air smelled of coffee, soldering flux, and the faint ozone tang of overtaxed electronics. If the Confederation finds out what we've stolen, We'll be lucky if they just imprison us, Omar said, rubbing his bloodshot eyes. The propulsion engineer hadn't slept in 36 hours. His workspace was littered with sketches of drive systems based on principles the Confederation considered settled science. They won't find out, Maya replied, though she wasn't entirely confident. Kavax covered our tracks. Dr. Lin Wei manipulated a holographic representation of a Xorelian battlecruiser, her slender fingers dancing through the projection as she rotated the image. Their shield geometry makes no sense from an efficiency standpoint. Look at this energy distribution. It's perfectly symmetrical even though the hull isn't. Torres, the ex-Special Forces tactician, nodded grimly. Form over function. They're applying mathematical elegance where they should be adapting to circumstances. He paused the battle footage they'd been analyzing. Freeze it here. Look at their response to the attack on their port flank. The team gathered around the central display. The Xorelian vessels moved in perfect, coordinated patterns that any human commander would recognize as dangerously predictable. They're behaving like this is a formal dance, not a battle, Torres said. Every maneuver is textbook, every response calculated according to some predetermined protocol. No innovation, no adaptation. It's worse than that, Maya said, highlighting a section of the data. Their tactics haven't fundamentally changed in over 2,000 years. The technology improved, but the thinking remained static. Omar whistled. That's like using modern fighter jets with World War I tactics. Exactly, Torres agreed. They've convinced themselves there's an optimal way to conduct space warfare, and they're sticking to it regardless of evidence to the contrary. Lin paused, her expression thoughtful. Is it possible they can't adapt? Some kind of cultural or psychological limitation. Or biological, Maya suggested. Some of these species evolved through rigid hierarchies or high structures. Creative thinking might not be valued, might even be punished. The doorbell rang, startling them all. Torres' hand instinctively moved to where a sidearm would normally be. Maya checked the security camera feed and froze. It's Kavax, she whispered. The four-armed alien stood on her doorstep, wearing what passed for casual Confederation attire, a shimmering robe that adjusted its molecular structure to maintain optimal body temperature. His secondary eye stalks twitched nervously. Maya opened the door cautiously. This is unexpected. The Confederation is accelerating production of T9 shield generators for the outer colonies, Kavax said without preamble. They're pouring resources into technology that failed to protect our ships in the last 17 engagements. Doing the same thing and expecting different results, Torres muttered from behind Maya. Kavax's primary eyes focused on him. An apt observation, human Torres. I bring news and a warning. The Xorelians have adjusted their attack pattern, slightly, for the first time in 300 years. Why? Omar asked. Their analysts reviewed the encounter your Captain Chen interrupted, Kavax replied. They've incorporated a minor variation to account for unpredictability. The alien pronounced the word as if it were a novel concept. They're adapting to us, Maya realized. Precisely. Kavax extended a data crystal. This contains technical specifications for the failed defense at Proxima Delta. We lost 30 ships and a colony of 8 million. Why are you giving us this? Lin asked. Kavax's exoskeleton clicked as he shifted uncomfortably. Because in 2,000 years of warfare, I've never seen the Xorelians alter their tactics. Until they encountered humans. His secondary eyes rotated toward the makeshift laboratory behind them. Whatever you're planning, accelerate it. The High Command won't listen until it's too late. Lin's hands shook as she transferred the equations to the central display. Rain pelted the missile silos' reinforced skylights, casting rippling shadows across the team's exhausted faces. The abandoned Cold War relic had become both their laboratory and their home. 30 meters underground, its concrete walls blocking any emissions that might attract Confederation attention. Show me again, Maya said, leaning forward. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She hadn't slept in nearly 40 hours. Lynn nodded, replaying the shield harmonic simulation. Every energy shield has a resonant frequency. It's basic physics, but the Confederation's shield designs treat space as a perfect medium. No friction, no interference, no quantum fluctuations. Which it isn't, Omar added. Space is messy, turbulent, full of gravitational eddies and radiation pockets. Exactly, Lynn continued, her excitement building despite her fatigue. Their shields are mathematically perfect in theory, but reality isn't perfect. When a shield encounters these natural variations, it creates harmonic patterns. If you can identify the pattern, you can shatter the shield like a wine glass. Torres finished, watching the demonstration again. The high C note made the crystal vibrate, then crack, then explode into glittering shards. But hitting the exact frequency would require incredibly precise calculations, Maya pointed out. We'd need to analyze each shield individually, in real time. Omar stood up, pacing the cramped space between workstations. Not necessarily. The Confederation standardizes everything. Their shield generators are built to exacting specifications. Same with the Xoralians. Different technology, same philosophy, mathematical perfection. Omar's right, Lynn said. We've analyzed shield data from 17 different Confederation vessels and 9 Xoralian ships. The resonance patterns fall into distinct categories. We could pre-calculate the frequencies. Torres drummed his fingers on the table. So we build a weapon that fires. What? Sound waves in space. Omar shook his head. No, we build a projectile. A modified railgun round. That vibrates at the target frequency as it approaches the shield. He sketched rapidly on a tablet. We could use piezoelectric materials that can alter their vibrational state based on sensor readings of the target. And since kinetic weapons are considered obsolete by both sides, they won't have defenses designed for them, Maya realized. It's so primitive they won't see it coming, Lynn agreed, her eyes bright with possibility. The excitement in the room was palpable until Torres cleared his throat. There's just one problem. Building even a prototype would require materials and manufacturing capabilities we don't have. We're talking about precision engineering at microscales. The momentary elation faded. Maya's shoulders sagged as reality reasserted itself. They had the theory but lacked the means to create anything beyond simulations. The encrypted Confederation communicator Kavax had given her beeped suddenly, the harsh sound echoing in the concrete chamber. The message was simple, coordinates, and a time, followed by, "Come alone." 3 hours later, Maya stood at the edge of Lake Michigan. The pre-dawn air crisp and quiet. A small craft appeared, hovering silently above the water surface. It wasn't Confederation technology. Kavax emerged, his exoskeleton gleaming in the dim light. "Captain Chen." "What is this?" Maya asked, tensing. "I've been authorized to inform you that certain elements within Confederation intelligence have been monitoring your project." Maya's blood ran cold. "How much do you know?" "Enough," Kavax replied. "Your resonance theory is sound, but your implementation is flawed. The materials you're considering won't withstand the stresses involved." Before Maya could respond, Kavax extended a containment unit. Inside was a small cylinder of material unlike anything she'd ever seen. Quantum-stabilized metamaterial. It can maintain precise vibrational states under extreme acceleration. Maya stared at him. "Why are you helping us?" "Because 3 more Confederation worlds went dark yesterday. The Xoralian advance is accelerating. Their fleet has altered course." Kavax's secondary eyes fixed on her. "They're moving toward Earth, Captain Chen. Their analysis of your species has led them to conclude that humans represent a potential threat to tactical supremacy. You have perhaps 14 days before they arrive." Maya took the container, her mind racing. "We need more than materials. We need manufacturing capacity, testing facilities. Which is why you've been granted access to Facility 7. Kavax handed her a data crystal. An abandoned Confederation research station in your Antarctic region. Old technology by our standards, but sufficient for your purposes. Who authorized this? Those who believe extinction is a more pressing concern than protocol. Kifax turned to leave, then paused. You should know, this is not sanctioned by High Command. If you fail, we will deny all knowledge of your efforts. And if we succeed? Maya asked. Then perhaps, Kifax said softly, we all survive. The Indomitable's bridge was a testament to how differently humans and aliens approach technology. Where Confederation ships favored sleek, minimalist designs with neural interfaces, this aging cruiser's command center was cluttered with physical controls, redundant systems, and what the aliens considered primitive backup mechanisms. Perfect for what they needed to do. Targeting calibration complete, Lynn announced, her fingers dancing across the modified interface. Resonance cannon synchronized with shield analysis array. Omar emerged from the access tunnel, his face streaked with coolant fluid. Drive modulators are as ready as they'll ever be. I've reconfigured the power distribution to allow for faster directional changes. The inertial dampeners will only compensate for about 80% of the G-forces, though. We'll manage, Torres replied, studying the tactical display. He'd spent the last 12 hours programming unpredictable maneuver patterns that no Confederation, or Xoralian, tactical computer would anticipate. The crew's been briefed on what to expect. Most of them think I'm insane. You are insane, Maya said with a tight smile. That's why we need you. The Indomitable's commander, a being named Vorrex, whose species communicated partly through color shifts in their translucent skin, approached the human team. Currently, Vorrex was pulsing an anxious shade of amber. The modifications you've made violate 17 safety protocols and 32 design regulations, Vorrex said, the ship's translation system rendering their melodic language into staccato English. If these alterations fail, we lose our shields, weapons capability, and possibly structural integrity. If they work, Maya countered, you'll be the first Confederation commander to destroy multiple Xoralian vessels in a single engagement. Before Vorrex could respond, the tactical officer, a reptilian being with glossy scales, called out in alarm. 6 Xoralian signatures detected near New Centauri colony. They're targeting civilian evacuation vessels. Vorrex's skin shifted to a deep purple, the equivalent of going pale in their species. Confederation Command instructs us to observe and report only. We are not to engage. The tactical display showed the civilian ships, slow, unarmed transports filled with colonists, trying desperately to escape the Xoralian patrol. As they watched, energy weapons lashed out. One of the transports erupted in a silent flash of light and debris. 3,000 civilians aboard that vessel, the tactical officer reported quietly. Maya watched Vorrex's skin cycle through colors she'd never seen before. The alien commander was experiencing something equivalent to human moral outrage, though filtered through an entirely different neurological system. Your orders, Commander, the navigation officer prompted. Vorrex's skin settled on a resolute crimson. Plot intercept course. Maximum speed. Sir, the tactical officer objected. Confederation Command explicitly ordered. I heard the orders, Vorrex interrupted. I am choosing to interpret them creatively. The alien turned to Torres. Implement your unconventional maneuver patterns, human. We will test your theories in combat. Torres nodded grimly and took position at the auxiliary tactical station, initiating approach vector Tango 7. This won't feel natural to any of you. The Indomitable surged forward, then executed a spiraling corkscrew maneuver that sent several crew members grasping for support. The inertial dampeners whined in protest. Xoralian vessels have detected us, the sensor officer reported. They're forming standard response formation Delta. Exactly as predicted, Maya said, watching the enemy ships arrange themselves in a mathematically perfect defensive pattern. They're positioning to maximize overlapping shield coverage. Lynn nodded excitedly. which means their shield harmonics will create interference patterns at these exact coordinates. She highlighted several nodes on the tactical display. Aim there, where the resonance will cascade through their formation. Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced, his scaled fingers hovering over controls he'd never used in actual combat. Vorex's skin pulsed with determination as the commander addressed the bridge crew. We are about to violate every tactical doctrine in Confederation history. If we survive, I will take full responsibility for this decision. 20 seconds to optimal firing position. Torres called out. Initiating evasive pattern echo. Brace for lateral acceleration. The ship lurched sideways, then down, then executed a spinning dive that the Confederation tactical manuals would have classified as suicidal. But it placed them precisely where the Xorilians didn't expect, beneath their formation, in a blind spot created by their own rigid adherence to geometric perfection. Resonance cannons locked on target. Lynn confirmed, her voice steady despite the ship's violent movements. Firing solution calculated. Fire, Vorex commanded. The first resonance projectile launched with a deep, vibrating hum that penetrated the ship's hull. On the tactical display, they watched it streak toward the nearest Xorilian cruiser. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy's shields flickered, warped, and vanished. The projectile continued unimpeded, striking the vessel's hull and detonating with precisely calibrated force. The Xorilian ship broke apart, its reactor core failing catastrophically. Stunned silence fell over the bridge. In 1,000 years of warfare, no one had ever seen a Xorilian shield fail so completely. Target the next vessel, Vorex ordered, skin now pulsing with a vibrant blue that the humans had never observed before. Let us show these Xorilians how humanity fights. Maya had never seen the Confederation War Council chamber so chaotic. The vast circular hall, designed to accommodate beings of wildly different physiologies, had descended into a cacophony of overlapping translation feeds and agitated voices. Holographic displays throughout the chamber showed the same footage on loop. The Indomitable executing maneuvers that defied conventional physics, resonance weapons piercing supposedly impenetrable shields, Xorilian warships disintegrating. Luck, bellowed Council Elder Graxus, his crystalline form vibrating with outrage. A statistical anomaly that proves nothing. 6 Xorilian warships destroyed with minimal damage to our vessel, countered Admiral Kvax, who had been hastily promoted after supporting the human initiative. This is not luck, Counselor. This is innovation. Innovation. The word seemed to physically pain the Elder. From primitives who discovered electromagnetic communication less than 2 centuries ago. Preposterous. Maya stood at the center of the chamber, flanked by her team. They looked out of place among the alien dignitaries, small and unassuming yet suddenly the focus of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Confederation has fought the Xorilians to a stalemate for a millennium, she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. In that time, both sides have pursued the same strategic approach. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, more powerful shields. Neither side ever questioned the underlying assumptions of space combat. Because those assumptions are based on immutable physical laws, insisted Science Minister Thilox, a collective intelligence composed of floating luminescent organisms. No, Lynn stepped forward, her scientific credentials earning her a moment of reluctant attention. They're based on mathematical models that privileged elegance over adaptability. Perfect in theory, vulnerable in practice. Omar activated a holographic display of his own, showing the modified engines that had given the Indomitable its unprecedented maneuverability. You've been building starships like cathedrals, monuments to engineering perfection. We build them like organisms, adaptable, redundant, resilient to unexpected threats. The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for the interruption. A high-priority signal cut through all other communications, silencing the chamber. The holographic displays shifted to show Admiral Vorex, now a hero throughout Confederation space, their skin pulsing with an urgent red. Council members, Vorx began. Confederation intelligence has decoded a direct communication from the Saurelian Emperor to his fleet commanders. The message appeared, translated into standard Confederation text. Priority Alpha. New strategic threat identified. Species. Human. Homeworld. Earth/Sol system. ACSMint. Tactically. Human predictable. Technologically innovative. Potential exist. Or paradigm. Disrupting weapons development. Priority. Acquire resonance technology. Secondary directive. If ACQUISATION fails, neutralize ISORC planet to prevent YFE. Emperor XORALVII has spoken. The Empire endures. Silence fell over the council chamber. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's environmental settings. "They're coming for Earth," she said softly. "The Saurelian main battle fleet has already altered course," Vorx confirmed. Long-range scans indicate over 200 capital ships, supported by at least 3 times that number of escorts and support vessels. Estimated time to Earth, 14 standard days. The council erupted again, but now with a different tone. Fear had replaced skepticism. Kavak stepped forward. "We must deploy our forces to protect Earth immediately." "Impossible." General Zorix, the Confederation's chief strategist, interjected. "Our main fleets are committed to defensive positions across 17 sectors. Redeploying to Earth would leave critical worlds vulnerable." "Then Earth stands alone," Torres said grimly. The council chamber grew quiet again as the implications sank in. For a millennium, no single planet had successfully repelled a concentrated Saurelian assault. Maya looked from face to face, beams of crystal and light, of gas and liquid, of chitin and scales, and saw the same realization in all of them. The Saurelians, after centuries of strategic stagnation, had recognized the existential threat posed by human innovation. They were responding not with gradual adaptation, but with overwhelming force. "You should never have interfered," Elder Graxus hissed. "You've brought destruction upon your world." "No," said a new voice. The chamber's massive doors had opened to admit High Counselor Merix, the nominal leader of the Confederation government, who rarely attended military briefings. The ancient being, a towering figure of living stone, approached with deliberate slowness. "For 1,000 years, we have fought the Saurelians to a standstill," Merix said, his voice like grinding tectonic plates. "For 1,000 years, we have measured victory by our ability to not lose. And in the span of a single planetary rotation, these humans have demonstrated more tactical innovation than our entire military establishment has produced in centuries." The High Counselor turned to Maya. "You will return to Earth immediately. You will prepare your world's defenses as best you can, and you will be given access to whatever resources we can spare." "It won't be enough," Maya said honestly. "No," Merix agreed. "It will not. But the Saurelians fear you, Captain Chen. They fear human innovation enough to divert their main fleet from our front lines. That is something I have never witnessed in all my centuries." The ancient being's eyes, crystalline formations that had witnessed the founding of the Confederation itself, fixed on Maya. "Teach your world to fight as you fought aboard the Indomitable. It is your only hope of survival." "We have 6 days left," Maya announced to the hastily assembled Earth Defense Council. The chamber, once the United Nations Security Council room, had been transformed into a war room unlike any in human history. Military leaders from 17 nations sat alongside civilian scientists, engineers, and the handful of Confederation advisors Kvax had managed to send. The holographic display at the center of the room showed Earth, the Moon, and the approaching Sauralian fleet, now just beyond Mars orbit. 247 warships against Earth's cobbled-together defenses. The orbital platforms are at 82% functionality, Lin reported, gesturing to the ring of defensive satellites now circling Earth. We've installed resonance cannons on all of them, but power systems remain unstable. We estimate 30% will fail on first use. What about the moon base? Asked General Williams of the newly formed United Earth Space Force. Torres highlighted the lunar surface. We've converted the mining facilities on the far side into ambush points. Resonance mines are in place along these trajectories. Red lines appeared, showing the most likely Sauralian approach vectors. The moon gives us a massive tactical advantage. It's a shield, a blind spot, and a staging area all in one. And the debris field? Maya inquired. Omar manipulated the display, revealing the cloud of objects now orbiting Earth in carefully calculated patterns. We've repurposed everything we could. Decommissioned satellites, space junk, even rocket stages. Each piece has been fitted with minimal thrusters and resonance transponders. When activated, they'll create a kinetic minefield. It still won't be enough, said Kavax quietly. The alien had remained on Earth to coordinate what little Confederation support could be provided. The Tauralians will accept heavy losses to accomplish their objective, which is why we need to make those losses unacceptable, Maya replied. She expanded a section of the display, showing Earth's magnetic field. Dr. Patel, explain the resonance amplification concept. Omar stood, his exhaustion evident but his eyes bright with intensity. Earth's magnetic field creates natural resonance points, areas where the field strength fluctuates in predictable patterns. We've positioned our defensive platforms at these nodes. When the resonance cannons fire through these points, their effect will be magnified exponentially. Like having the planet itself amplify our weapons, Lin added. Precisely, Maya confirmed. We've created kill zones where our limited firepower will have maximum impact. The trick is forcing the Sauralians into these zones. Torres highlighted sections of near-Earth orbit. That's where the deception tactics come in. We'll use dummy signals, minimal power transmissions, and targeted electromagnetic pulses to create the illusion of weaknesses in our defense grid. Bait, General Williams said, understanding dawning. Yes, Maya nodded. The Sauralians think in patterns. They'll recognize these apparent gaps in our defenses and attempt to exploit them, dragging straight into our trap. Admiral Zhukov of the Russian Space Command frowned. This assumes they won't adapt to our tactics. They will adapt, Maya acknowledged. But adaptation requires time and information. Our strategy is to overwhelm them with so many unconventional tactics simultaneously that they can't process what's happening until it's too late. The room fell silent as the magnitude of what they faced sank in. Humanity's first interstellar war would begin in 6 days against an enemy that had been waging space combat for a millennium. Kavax approached the holographic display, studying the defensive preparations. In my 800 years of military service, I have never witnessed a strategic approach like this. It is beautiful in its chaos. That's humanity for you, Torres said with a grim smile. We excel at beautiful chaos. A communication officer burst into the room. Captain Chen, we're detecting faster-than-light signatures at the edge of the system. They're not Sauralian. The display shifted to show 11 vessels decelerating into normal space near Jupiter. Confederation reinforcements, General Williams asked hopefully. Kavax studied the signatures, his secondary eyes widening. No, those are independent vessels. Trading ships, mercenaries, even. He paused in apparent shock. That signature belongs to a Nix-Aryan war skiff. They haven't allied with anyone in 7 centuries. What are they doing here? Lin asked. The communication officer handed Maya a data tablet. They're requesting permission to join Earth's defense. Their message says, She read it twice, unable to believe the words. "We come to fight alongside the humans who shattered the patterns." Maya looked up, meeting the eyes of everyone in the room, human and alien alike. "It seems we've inspired more than just fear. We've given hope to those who thought this war would never end." Torres studied the tactical display with renewed determination. 11 ships won't turn the tide against 247. "No," Maya agreed, "but they're a start. And they bring something more valuable than firepower." "What's that?" asked General Williams. "Proof," Maya said simply, "that we're not alone in believing the impossible is possible." "The fleet doesn't look real," whispered an aide to Admiral Zhukov as they stood on the observation deck of Humanity's Reach. Maya couldn't disagree. The assembled vessels defied conventional military aesthetics. Where Confederation ships had always been elegant, symmetrical constructions, this new battle group was a study in beautiful asymmetry. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with retrofitted resonance cannons that disrupted their clean lines. Surrounding them were the revolutionary strike craft, small, agile vessels piloted by single crew members, based on Earth's fighter jet concept. 3 months had passed since Earth's miraculous defense. The Xorelian assault had been devastating. Of Earth's original 38 vessels, only 11 survived. 3 orbital platforms remained operational. But the cost to the attackers had been unprecedented. 189 Xorelian ships destroyed, including their flagship. The victory had transformed the Confederation's approach to the war. "Are we ready, Commander Torres?" Maya asked, adjusting the unfamiliar weight of her new Confederation Admiral's insignia. Torres, now the first human to hold the rank of Confederation Strike Commander, nodded crisply. "Strike squadrons report full operational status. The pilots have completed the modified training program." The pilots were perhaps the most radical element of the new strategy. Beings from 17 species now operated the small, human-designed craft, adopting tactics developed by Earth's air forces over centuries of aerial combat. Many had struggled with the concept initially. The idea of individual initiative in combat was foreign to most Confederation military doctrine. "The neural interfaces are compensating for the physiological differences," Lynn added. She had spent weeks adapting the strike craft controls to work with alien neurologies. The Holuxians were the biggest challenge, trying to create controls for a being with radial symmetry and 12 manipulator tentacles. "What about the resonance calibrations?" Maya asked Omar, who had been promoted to chief engineer of the combined fleet. "Complete on all vessels," he confirmed. "We've programmed the targeting systems with adaptive algorithms. They'll predict shield modulation changes and adjust frequencies automatically." Maya turned to Kavax, who now served as her executive officer. "Status of Proxima Colony." Kavax's exoskeleton clicked as he shifted posture. What humans had learned was his equivalent of tension. Under continuous bombardment for 27 years. Population reduced to emergency shelters. Xorelian occupation forces number approximately 50 vessels in standard defensive formation. Standard, Maya repeated, the word carrying new meaning. What had once been considered the pinnacle of tactical efficiency was now recognized as predictable and exploitable. The command deck fell silent as Admiral Chen approached the tactical display. The plan she outlined violated every principle of conventional space combat. The main Confederation force would approach from what traditional doctrine considered an inefficient vector, drawing Xorelian attention. Meanwhile, 5 squadrons of strike craft would make a silent approach through the system's dense asteroid belt, using minimal power to avoid detection. This plan places enormous responsibility on the strike craft pilots, objected tactical advisor Verix, one of the few traditionalists still attached to the fleet. "If they fail to coordinate perfectly, they won't fail," Torres interrupted with quiet confidence. "Because we've trained them to think, not just follow protocols. Each pilot has authority to adapt to changing circumstances." Decentralized command. Verix's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. "That's how humans fight," Kavax finished firmly. and how we will fight from now on. Maya surveyed the assembled officers, a collection of species who, months ago, would never have considered taking tactical advice from humans. The Xorelians have occupied Proxima Colony for 27 years. Their defensive formations are entrenched, their supply lines established. They believe their position is impregnable. She allowed herself a small smile. They're about to learn what happens when you fight humans. 12 hours later, the battle for Proxima Colony began. The main Confederation force emerged from faster-than-light travel at precisely the calculated coordinates, immediately drawing Xorelian attention. Energy weapons powered up across the enemy fleet as they arranged themselves in textbook defensive patterns. They never detected the strike craft approaching from within the asteroid belt until it was too late. 53 small vessels, each carrying a payload of resonance torpedoes, activated simultaneously. The coordinated attack created a cascading wave of shield failures across a third of the Xorelian fleet. In the command center of humanity's reach, Maya watched as the tactical display registered the successful first strike. All vessels, execute attack pattern broken arrow. The main Confederation fleet suddenly broke formation, abandoning the rigid geometric patterns that had defined space combat for millennia. Each ship maneuvered independently along vectors that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated to exploit the gaps created by the strike craft. The Xorelians are attempting to re-establish their defensive perimeter, KVAX reported, secondary eyes tracking multiple data feeds. As predicted, Torres noted with grim satisfaction. They're falling back on programmed responses. The battle lasted less than 2 hours. When the final Xorelian vessel attempted to retreat, it was intercepted by strike craft that had anticipated the escape vector. The liberation of Proxima Colony, a world that had suffered under occupation for nearly 3 decades, was accomplished in a single day. As Maya stood on the bridge of humanity's reach, watching the first relief vessels descend to the colony, KVAX approached with a data tablet. 17 additional Xorelian-occupied worlds have reported uprisings in the past 6 hours, the alien reported. The occupied populations saw the battle through long-range observatories. They're fighting back. Hope is contagious, Maya said quietly. Indeed. KVAX hesitated, then added, the Confederation Council has authorized the formation of 20 additional battle groups based on your design. The momentum of this war has changed, Admiral Chen. Maya nodded, watching as the first human strike craft returned to the flagship, their pilots, human, alien, and everything in between, unified by a shared victory and a new way of fighting. The Xorelians have been waging the same war for 1,000 years, she said. We just started a different one. The bridge of humanity's reach fell silent as the massive Xorelian throne world appeared on the main display. Imperium Prime, a planet encircled by defensive rings, weapon platforms, and the remnants of the once invincible Xorelian home fleet. After 18 months of relentless campaigning across occupied space, the war had reached its inevitable conclusion. Maya studied the tactical overlay. The Confederation armada surrounding the red giant star numbered 7,000 vessels, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Against them stood the Xorelian home fleet, 10,000 ships arranged in perfect, mathematically precise defensive formations around their capital world. It would be beautiful, she murmured, if it weren't so predictable. KVAX, now her trusted second-in-command, inclined his head in agreement. They still don't understand. Even after all this time, they cling to their patterns. The command deck was crowded with representatives from 37 species, former enemies and reluctant allies now united by human innovation. Among them stood Torres, Omar, and Lin, each having transformed their respective fields of expertise. What had begun with 4 humans working in a garage had become a galactic revolution in warfare. The Emperor refuses our final communication, reported the communications officer, a crystalline being who had once dismissed humans as primitives. They will not surrender. Maya had expected nothing less. For 1,000 years, the Sauralian Empire had expanded relentlessly, never retreating, never surrendering. Their rigid adherence to their traditions had been their greatest strength, until it became their fatal weakness. "All ships, prepare to execute Operation Broken Arrow," she ordered. The code name, drawn from ancient Earth military terminology, had become synonymous with the unpredictable, asymmetric warfare that humans had introduced to galactic combat. The Confederation fleet fractured into seemingly chaotic groupings that baffled Sauralian tactical computers. Massive dreadnoughts deliberately exposed their flanks in maneuvers no conventional commander would attempt, drawing enemy fire while strike craft squadrons slipped through defensive gaps. "Thermopylae Squadron, you are clear to proceed," Torres transmitted from his command station. The elite fighter wing, led by Commander Rodriguez, immediately executed a high-risk maneuver, taking their vessels directly through a plasma storm that the Sauralians had classified as impenetrable. "They're adapting their shield frequencies," Lin warned, monitoring the quantum fluctuations, attempting to counter our resonance weapons. "As expected," Omar replied from engineering. His fingers danced across his console, making real-time adjustments, implementing variable harmonics now. The battle raged for 27 hours without pause. The Sauralians fought with desperate ferocity, their tacticians attempting to incorporate human unpredictability into their strategies. But a millennium of rigid doctrine couldn't be unlearned in the heat of battle. When the Emperor's fortress palace finally took a direct hit from resonance cannons, its supposedly impenetrable shields collapsing in a spectacular cascade of energy, Maya felt no triumph, only relief that the killing might finally end. The transmission came on all frequencies, broadcast in the formal language of Sauralian Imperial Decree. The Emperor recognizes the strategic supremacy of the Confederation forces. The Sauralian Empire requests terms for cessation of hostilities. After 1,000 years of relentless expansion, the Sauralian Empire had surrendered. 3 months later, Maya stood on a hilltop overlooking the newly constructed Confederation Academy in Colorado. The mountain air was crisp and clear, carrying sounds of activity from the sprawling campus below. Beings from across the galaxy, now trained in simulators designed by Torres, studied propulsion theory taught by Omar, and learned quantum mechanics from Lin. Admiral Chen, a crystalline cadet, approached, attempting an awkward human salute. The young alien's form shimmered in the sunlight. "I am honored to meet you. I traveled from Exilis IX to study the human method." Maya smiled, remembering when human had been a dismissive term in Confederation vernacular. "The method is simple, cadet. Never stop adapting. Never accept limitations. And never, ever fight the way your enemy expects." As the cadet departed, Kivax joined her on the hillside. "The Confederation Council has approved your proposal for integrated battle groups. Each will feature commanders from at least 3 different species to ensure diversity of tactical thinking." Maya nodded, watching a squadron of strike craft, piloted by 17 different species, executing maneuvers that would have been considered suicidal before humans entered the galactic stage. "It's strange," she said quietly. "When we first met the Confederation, they called us primitive because we hadn't mastered faster-than-light travel or energy weapons. A technological measurement of advancement," Kivax agreed. "We never considered that progress might be measured in adaptability rather than technological achievement." Below them, a class of cadets was engaged in a tactical exercise. The instructor, a 4-armed Venaxian, who had once commanded Confederation dreadnoughts, was challenging them to devise unpredictable solutions to standardized combat scenarios. From each species came different approaches, different perspectives, different strengths. "We didn't just transform space combat," Maya realized. "We transformed how civilizations interact." "Indeed," Kivax replied, his secondary eyes focusing on the horizon. For millennia, the galaxy was divided between the rigid perfection of the Sauralians and the elegant symmetry of the Confederation. 2 sides of the same flawed approach. It took humans, with your chaotic, adaptable, imperfect methods to show us a better way. Maya watched as human and alien cadets worked together, combining their unique perspectives to create something entirely new. The revolution was complete, but its implications would continue to unfold for generations. Humanity hadn't just changed how the galaxy fought wars. They had changed how it imagined peace.